What's up, fight fans? From the Fight Star studio in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world. I mean, just look at this place. It's unbelievable, right? On MMA Weekly, I'm Jim Grieshaber, Cageside Gries, Gries, at Jim Gries _ at Cageside Gries on social media. And man, I am pumped today. And you guys know, whenever I get the chance to do an interview with a legend, whenever I get the chance to talk to a Hall of Famer, whenever I get the chance to be inspired and carry over some of that inspiration into your lives, that's why we're here. That's why we do this, so I hope you're enjoying it, and we have a treat for you today, a UFC Hall of Famer, a legend, one of the OGs, and I hate to even use that phrase, but it's a term of endearment, right? So one of the OGs in this sport, one of the guys who built it to where it is. His fight against Chuck Liddell went over 500,000 buys, became world famous for knocking out the Iceman, and literally helped propel this sport forward to where it is now, and where it's going. It's still here, if you ask anybody who's involved with it. He's the vice president of One Championship. They're doing their first event on U.S. soil this Friday in Denver, Colorado. Mighty Mouse, Adriano Moraes, the trilogy fight. It's sold out. It's free on Amazon. Man, it's a big week for Rich Franklin, and it's a big week for One Championship. And he joins us now in studio. Rich, man, I'll tell you what, after that intro, I'm just pumped because it's a big week for you guys.
I'm pumped after that intro. You did all that in one take, man. I'm not kidding. I'm sitting here watching like, wow, this man's a true professional.
You know, you're a commentator, man. It's those lights go on. You got to be at your best.
I'm not that good at commentating yet. I'm still a good fighter and working on my commentating game.
Okay, all right. Well, you got that background. I mean, you have the knowledge of the sport, right? And you have the pedigree and so many things. But One Championship is amazing to me. First of all, it's one of the top 10 organizations in sports, right? Over $1 billion valuation years ago and growing, coming onto U.S. soil with so much power and so much clout behind you, not only on social media, worldwide, streaming live on Amazon. Were you surprised how fast that show sold out, man? It was...
Yeah, actually, I think we all were a little bit. It's just because it was so quick. It sold out so quickly that I was like, am I still getting my ticket allocation? So no, I'm really, really happy about that. We've been actually coming to the U.S. post-COVID, slow to enter market, and I shouldn't use the word slow. I should use the word calculated. And so we have one show on the docket for 2023, possibility of teasing a second one before the end of the year, waiting to see how this one plays out. This is a big learning curve for us coming to the United States. So what kind of adjustments that we're going to need to make on the back end of this year if we do one later? More than likely, we're looking at, H1 2024 instead. And so we're finally here. And I was living down in Singapore. I worked for this organization, commuting from the Midwest to Singapore. Lived down
Cincinnati to Singapore.
Yeah, it's 30 hours door to door, from the time I leave my front door to the time I get to my hotel. Wow. And so commuted for a number of years and then lived in Singapore for about 5 years, came back to the U.S. while we were starting to work on this endeavor. And just, this is all a culmination of a huge team effort. And headed to Colorado. Denver's going to be an awesome city to hold this thing in. Obviously, it's a fight town. May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, huge fight day. And we're really looking forward to it. Colorado's been an amazing partner with us working. Like, that has been the easiest athletic commission to work with.
And I know you guys have done some things here with some local and regional promotions, like heavyweight tournaments, things like that here and there. I've seen you doing those to kind of get, how much have those helped you to build to this point?
It helps. I mean, it helps with awareness for, we have an amazing following. Like, the hardcore fans obviously know who we are, but then this has helped us branch out a lot. Like, for example, when we had the fight with Rodtang versus Daniel Williams a couple years back, Rodtang gained so much, grew his fan base so much in the United States, and there was the Muay Thai community really came out to support him. So that was big, and so you see these jumps in our fan base or our numbers, statistics, and all that kind of stuff here in the U.S. So it's the little events that we've done, like the Road to Ones and things of that matter, has helped create some sort of awareness for people who may not have heard about One Championship at that time.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's really interesting to see it growing, and the social media presence is huge. I mean, over 70 million on social media alone. And when you guys put something out, it gets that traction. And then in the Asian markets, and I love what happened, and Chatri had said this when it started, right? It's about bringing respect back to mixed martial arts on some level, because it started from martial arts. And it is a Far Eastern thing, right? And he started One Championship for that reason, because there was no promotion in Asia, and Asia's the place, and that they're very proud of that. And so he has made this such a mission in his life, his baby, and to see it grow like this. You came on a couple of years after it started, right?
Yeah.
So can you kind of take us through the progression of one championship, because it's been pretty fast, especially the last few years.
Yeah, well, Chatri started this. He is a lifelong martial artist. I mean, he practices BJJ now, and he's adamant about his practice. But he grew up in Thailand, and so originally he started doing Muay Thai. And by his own admission, he'll tell you that he realized that he was not at the level where he needed to be to become a champion in that sport. And so he never quit training, never quit having a passion for that sport, but just knew that he wasn't going to pursue that at a high level. And it comes back around full circle with him now promoting the events or being the CEO of an organization and bringing these events back to Asia. And it all started with, anybody who grew up in Thailand, or if you know anything about Muay Thai in Thailand, like it is almost religion there. The art itself is sacred. And so there is a lot of
favorite style. I love it.
Yeah.
It's dirty, man.
Trust me.
Fun to watch.
Close quarters fighting.
Not so
in
fun
Muay
to
Thai.
do for me because I'm not good enough at it, but fun to watch. Watch guys like you do.
Trust me, I've had to refine my clinch work based on some hard lessons. But, the close quarter fighting in Muay Thai is amazing and some of the most effective fighting. But yeah, it's those values that come from the martial arts, the individual martial arts that was pre-MMA, and it's those values that the honor, respect, humility, and integrity. Those things that we're bringing back to mixed martial arts, and so that's what this organization was built on. And there's an appeal to that within the athletes, and it's just the way that we've set up the entire organization that I think is going to resonate with the U.S. fans.
Yeah, and there's been so many variations, people trying to come up with different things to compete with the other promotions and try to be the top dog and make their own place in the sport. And one of the things I love about One Championship, you guys are going to bring in, and you already do this, but people here who aren't familiar with it, there's Muay Thai, there's submission, there's actually submission grappling championship match on this card. So fans are going to come in, they're going to see world-class mixed martial arts with Mighty Mouse and Moraes and that trilogy fight, and the only guy who knocked out Mighty Mouse, and then Mighty Mouse knocked him out in the second one. Now it's the third one. Super Sage coming back, and didn't start well for him in One Championship, and now he's back. So you have those names on the card, but you're also exposing the U.S. audience to a whole different brand and a whole nother roster of fighters they haven't even seen yet.
Well, we've previously exposed the U.S. audience to the likes of like Stamp Fairtex, Rodtech Jitmanong, and so the hardcore fans are very familiar with athletes, and these are Thai athletes that have somewhat transcended barriers at this point in time, and they're going to continue transcending barriers. Like Amanda Pacquiao became much more famous than just in the Philippines, for example, and they do that because of they have that it factor first of all, but their fighting style is just one that that when you say the name Rodtang, for example, or when you say Stamp, that it's going to be an exciting matchup no matter what. So both of them are on this card. You talked about Mikey Musumeci, the grappling championship is coming up. He's going to have a tough match on his hands too. IBJJF champions, and then you also mentioned that we do the MMA matches, we do the Muay Thai matches. The Muay Thai matches are in 4-ounce gloves, rather the MMA style gloves, rather than a 6 or 8 ounce traditional boxing style glove. And then we also have kickboxing. So, and what we've done a really good job with is the matchups that we put on the card. Like this card from top to bottom, somebody that the U.S. fans might not be super familiar with, but like Jackie Boontan and Deandra Martin are the opener for the main card, and that's gonna be an amazing match to watch. Like Jackie Boontan, her style, the footwork that she uses, the way she angles off, straight combinations, 1-2, in and out. Like they always put good game plans together. And Deandra Martin's a much taller fighter and comes with stylistically like more of a stable stance. Like that one right out of the gate is just going to set the tone for the rest of the night. And from start to finish, this card is stacked, and we've done an amazing job putting this together. So I think that the only piece left for One Championship, I mean, we came out, we sold the arena out, we were, I'll say surprised, but kind of we were expecting the sellout.
Just UFC was in Denver, right? I mean, it's a great fight city, you said.
We were expecting the sellout, just not that quickly,
right,
I guess is the way I should be saying that, or I'm trying to say it. But it's like all the pieces have gone into place the way that they should have and the way that we planned for them to. So now it's just about execution, like on the fighters' parts of putting on a good show. And they almost never fail to put on an amazing show for us. And so the fans are in for a treat. And the people that have not seen one, I don't know how you could not see one, like what cave are you living in, but the people that have not seen a One Championship event are in for a real treat come Friday night.
That's Rich Franklin, of course, the vice president of One Championship, UFC Hall of Famer. We're going to get to that in a minute, but I have to ask you about Francis Ngannou because things aren't going his way. So many promotions, and I know you can't speak for them. Dana says he'll never let him back, which of course there's enough money, he might come back. But you guys passed just today, and Chatri made the announcement, said it wasn't financial. It was issues that were related to the contract, but not financial. I'm not going to ask you to get any specifics on that, but to be able to say no thank you to a guy like Francis Ngannou, I know a lot of fans are going to say, hey, what are they, crazy? They don't want to bring in a guy like Francis. They have Sage, they have Mighty Mouse, but that's not necessarily what you guys are doing, right? So that leads me to my next question for you, which is, are you focusing more on your superstars and then bringing them here to expose to the American audience? Are you looking for more famous fighters like a Francis, like a Mighty Mouse to help build the brand here? Is it a combination of all that?
Yeah, it's a combination. Just so I set the record straight on this, I'm not part of any of the discussions with Francis. Like, that's not what I do for the company. With us coming to the U.S., I've been primarily focused on bringing the event here.
Right.
And so, I'm going to speak about this from a fan perspective.
Okay.
And so I'll just say that anytime you're dealing with athletes, like, talking to Jen brought me here today, and I'm an athlete that's easy to deal with. You tell me to show up at a certain time, I show up at a certain time. I need to make weight, I make weight. When I have to have my medicals done before a matchup, they get done. I don't have to have somebody send me 16 different emails.
Right.
And so there are these other factors, and I don't know what the factors outside of the financial circumstances are with a fighter like Francis. But when you become a difficult athlete to work with, whether it's your agents or your management or your irresponsibility, or you can't make weight, whatever these things are, it's like all that stuff weighs into the equation. Obviously paramount is your ability to put on good fights, and then how that X factor that you would have in relating to the fans or drawing the viewership to the event. But beyond that, it's like you have all these other things that come into play. And so whatever that factor was for him, obviously it's enough. I'm assuming it's somehow like difficult to deal with, and that's why the UFC doesn't want him back. And perhaps that's why we passed on him as well. But make no mistake about it, like we would, in a perfect world, if all things were as they should be, you would love to sign a guy like Francis because it would make for amazing matchups.
Part of your job with one is to work with the fighters, right? You call the fights, you work with the fighter, like a fighter advocate or a guy who's there to help the fighters in any way that you can, right? So in this sport, in this day and age, and you're one of the guys who helped get it here, how has that changed? And if you could go back and talk to young Rich Franklin when you were still fighting, what advice would you give him about the business side that we just talked about with a guy like Francis?
Oh, I think the biggest advice I would give myself is the importance of socials, because I was a champion at a time when MySpace was fizzling out and Facebook was just coming on the scene. And for me, I was like,
I'm your age. I'm MySpace. I'm just kind of...
Yeah, right. Like, exactly.
It was dope though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, your own song. But I love MySpace.
I was never even into that. And so when Facebook came on, I was like, I'm not interested in this stuff. Like, I'm not the kind of person that wants to sit in front of a computer, right? I'm not a gamer. I don't like doing that stuff. I'd rather be outside playing basketball than playing a basketball
Torturing
video
yourself.
game. Right.
Taking yourself out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And so I didn't put enough emphasis on social media. And that's one of the things that I would, seeing the business side of things now, particularly with the way that the sport has changed, is like a lot of athletes, fighters, they'll approach me, and I'll have like American fighters that have like 4 or 5 fights, and like, man, how could I get on a one championship card? And I just say this, and I say, what do you bring to the organization? What is it that you bring to the organization? Yeah. Because if you have a social media following and you have a fan base that you bring, that's a big deal as an example. And so it's like, you gotta, first and foremost, you focus on your fighting ability, refining your technique, because that's what's going to get you there, is being a good fighter. But all these other things are important. And when I was fighting, I was focusing on just like business of, running the t-shirt company I had, because I was running American Fighter at the time and things of that nature, and looking at those post-fight revenue sources for me. But I didn't put enough emphasis on my social media, and that's something that's really important for these younger fighters now.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, you see guys like Chael talking himself into title fights, and Conor McGregor, of course, and everything he's done. Rich Franklin, I have to ask you about your career, man. You're a Hall of Famer. When you just laid the Iceman out, I mean, you have the wins over Vanderlei. You fought Lyoto in Japan. You have a master's degree. You're a teacher. Chael called you that. I hate to throw it, but you're a teacher from Cincinnati, right? And here you are traveling the world, being a Hall of Famer in a sport that you took up as a teenager you started training?
Yeah.
And so I look at that as an incredible story to take that and turn it into this. Did you ever think in a million years? I mean, maybe when Chuck hit the canvas, you're going, yeah, I'm famous for life. That was 500,000 buys. But besides that, did you ever think in a million years you'd be doing something like this with an organization like this, taking the sport worldwide without the UFC?
No, it's funny. Like at this age, I look back at my life and I kind of scratch my head. I'm like, how did this happen to me? Because I didn't even start for my high school football team. Interestingly enough, I had this conversation the other day, and
come on, you're serious. Well, it is Ohio.
I'm dead serious.
It is Ohio. It's tough to get on the field there.
Yeah, right.
It's not easy.
But I mean, I'm like a world champion athlete, right? So it's like I should have, but I didn't. I didn't start from my high school. I was a late bloomer, and so I was talking to a kid in the I'd say kid, but young man in the gym the other day, and he was talking about he did this local bodybuilding tournament and how it was kind of a big deal to him, even though it was a small event. And he goes, it's not that big of a deal. And I said, whoa. I said, listen, man. I said, let me just tell you a story. I said, I've won my belts. I got my Hall of Fame award. And I said, the funny thing is, a few years back, the teacher who used to coach wrestling at my high school where I attended, he sent me a picture, a text with him holding a shadow boxed photo setup that they my high school hung on the wall on the Athletic Hall of Fame. This just happened a few years ago.
Nice.
I said, and in some sort of weird way, I got as much enjoyment out of that as I did like a Hall of Fame induction, because I athletically, I didn't perform at my school very well, but like, it was like my school was recognizing me. I'm like, and it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And so that, that kind of stuff is important. So when I sit back and look at my life and how it's developed, like there's no way I would have ever have pictured where I'd ended up. Traveling the world, I've been to over 65 countries at this point in time, and just the things I've seen and the things I've done, both professionally and outside of my profession. God has blessed me with a great career and opportunities outside of my career, and I'm truly a blessed man.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple more for Rich Franklin, and just this, I could do this all day, and I know you have other interviews to do, but man, when I think about your career and what you were able to do, I really, moving forward and building one championship, this experience you have, the pedigree behind you, the knowledge, the insight, everything you've talked about, everything is numbers for you. So growing this thing moving forward is natural to you, right? Because everything is an equation, and you're a math guy. Yeah. But the one thing I like about you the most, and this is something that we always do in our interviews, and I'm a father too. You said that it was your dad's name that you saw in lights on the Vegas Strip whenever you fought.
Yeah.
And to come from the space of not making your high school football team, man, and to reach the heights you've reached, to deal with, and I've felt that, and we've all felt that crushing disappointment where, man, I'm not good enough, I'm giving up my dreams, and you can pivot and you can make other dreams come true through the process of learning how to do that. What was that like for you? Because I know you love to make yourself uncomfortable. There's not a fighter alive who doesn't, right? But that's something for you. Take us from the moment where you felt that crushing defeat of not making your high school football team to the moment where you went back and were inducted into the Hall of Fame, because at that point, the UFC Hall of Fame is nothing compared to that. But how were you able to take that bitter disappointment and turn that into this life that you created for yourself?
I was never cut from the high school football team because I think they let everybody just join.
Oh, you just didn't start?
Yeah.
My bad, you didn't start.
Yeah, they need bodies on the field for practice squad, right?
I was someone to get beat up in practice.
I was more like Rudy. If you've seen the movie Rudy, now that'll tell my age here, just if you've not seen that movie. But if you haven't seen that movie, it's a great movie to watch. And so I was that guy on the high school field. And it's interesting growing up. Like I was a decent athlete as a young kid, and then I grew vertically, and I didn't fill out. And I was just a late bloomer. I grew another inch in college, put on about 40 pounds from the time that I graduated high school till about my, first quarter of my sophomore year. And I can remember coming back to the high school football game to watch one of the games, and my coach looked at me. He's like, "Dude, you look like the guy that ate Rich Franklin. Like, what the heck happened to you? I could have used that."
Gross.
And so, I kind of grew into myself. And with that being said, like I think one of the things that made me a very successful athlete is that I was hungry, and I had to be hungry because I had to work for everything that I had. Right. And so I wasn't this athlete that had this blessed talent. I wasn't, the All-American state trophy winning quarterback for my high school football team. And so I had to work for everything I had. So I was always appreciative of those advancements that I made. But because I had to work so hard through my whole high school and not making the team, it was like, as I was training as a fighter, I never, ever let the foot off the gas. Like, it was like, there's somebody out there, like if you take a day off, there's somebody out there training to beat you. right? And so I had that mentality my entire career, and it's the culmination of those todays that eventually added up to a Hall of Fame career. There's not any kind of like flip of the switch of a mindset.
Right.
It's just it's the person who's running the stadium stairs at the high school when the lights are off and no one is watching. You know, it's the person who gets on the mat first for a training session or leaves the mat last because you're going to do an extra 10, 15, 20 reps of something because you weren't performing the way that you wanted to. It's the person who, instead of going out with his buddies drinking at night, because I don't drink anyway, but making sure I'm getting to bed at the right time. You know, people.
You never had a beer?
Never.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, never drank. But you know,
I've had enough for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't drink, because I knew you were drinking mine. So, but it's
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. But no, it's about putting that work in. You know, people are always like, man, I train hard and this and that. It's like, but do you do the other stuff hard? Like, do you, you know, are you putting that time into your recovery, your film study, you know, downtime, making sure you get to bed on time, sacrificing going out when you want to, when you should, you know that you have to train the next day and focus on that recoup. And so it's the culmination of all those things over time that eventually just added up to that Hall of Fame induction.
What's left for you? I'm gonna close with this, and we're gonna. I mean, you're gonna give us your best promo for the event at the end, of course. But as far as the questions go, what's next for you, both with one championship and you? Because you've teased getting back in there, man. And there's guys your age are making a ton of money, man, a ton of money right now coming back. I mean, you have to look at those numbers and go, wow. I mean, maybe if those numbers are right, if the circumstances are right, if you can be at your best, maybe you get back in there again.
I always tease the idea if with the right opponent for the right dollars.
Would it be with one?
Well, I mean, I don't know how that works. But being a vice president for an organization and fighting for the organization,
you better hope you're nice to the fighter that would be your opponent.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's a conflict of interest because technically the matchmaker and I are really good friends. So
I see it a lot on the local promotions, but I mean, you never see Dana get in the octagon. I mean, he was going to fight Tito, though. You remember that? He was going to fight Tito.
But no, I mean, I have like that championship mindset, and so it's like I do. You ask me like, what's next for me within the organization? I handle so many different little things for the organization. You know, at one point in time, I was running a travel show, recruiting talent. I'm the one who found Stamp Fairtex on my travel show and brought her into the organization. So. And I've, done that with several fighters. She's probably the biggest, most recognizable name. And I had a great time doing that, loved doing it. But it was interesting that while I was running that show, I took the approach of like every episode we wanted to make the next episode better, like learning the production side of it, not just being in front of the camera. And now one of the things I do for One Championship is commentary work. And I really take my job seriously as an analyst. Like I like bringing good analysis to the fights, or at least trying to bring good analysis to a fight. I don't know, maybe somebody's listening to this like, you're crap, bro. But no, like in my mind, it's like I have this trade aside from the other things that I handle for one on the executive side. It's like I have these things where I'm like, I want to work on this the same way that I worked on my fight career. It's just the way that I approach everything, and I kind of have this: you're only as strong as your weakest link in a chain mentality. So that's kind of what's next for me as a human being and a professional, I guess.
Last thing for Rich Franklin, man, this is awesome. I mean, One Championship Friday, Denver, Colorado, sold out. Amazon, Mighty Mouse, Mariah, Super Sage on there. A beautiful card full of fights, submission grappling, Muay Thai. And this is something that I have to ask you for the fans out there who are wondering. So many things for us to watch. So much, to get our attention on social media. Mm-hmm. Why should a fan who has never seen One Championship take some of that precious time and give it to you guys?
Well, first of all, they're probably wasting their time on some like Instagram stuff that it doesn't impact them in any way, shape, or form. But no, if you're a martial arts fan, then you're gonna love the show. First of all, the production quality is amazing. That's not what's going to appeal to the fans out there. But like you said, we do have the MMA matches, the grappling matches, kickboxing, Muay Thai matches, and this card is stacked top to bottom. I talked about this. You talked about the Adriano versus Demetrious Johnson matchup. Demetrious has actually teased this being his retirement fight.
Saw that. And what a great dude. I've always loved him.
Yeah, he's really nice. Awesome. I've known DJ for years. Mm-hmm. He and I actually trained together when I was still active.
How did that work?
It's
like a lucha libre.
No. It's like trust me. There's drills. Listen, put me on my back and have DJ pass in my guard.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
No one wants that.
Yeah, it's like you got you have to use your training partners for what they're capable of giving you a good look on, right? Like obviously, me getting ready for somebody like Forrest, like DJ's not the guy I want to spar with because the reach is slightly different, but obviously he's a beast on the mats. And so, seeing somebody like that as both as a friend and as a fan, that's like, wow, that in itself is reason enough to watch this matchup. But I look at a guy like Adriano Moraes. Like, I was in the organization, I was at the fight when Adriano initially won his title, and so to see this development and to see the rubber match, the score being 1-1, and that's just the main event. We worked our way down the card a little bit, but Roberto Soldic is finally making his what I'll call real debut, because in his initial debut he got fouled, and we really only got to see about a minute of him before that happened. And so biggest free agent signing in the history of MMA as of recent, and then all the way down the card, like I was talking about Jackie Boontan and Deandra Martin. Like, this card is going to open up Ong Law, a staple on the card, RDR versus Ty Rotolo. Interesting matchup to me because René de Ridder had a grappling match against Andre Galvao. Ty Rotolo was one of Andre's proteges, so there's an interesting dynamic there to me. And it's just from top to bottom, this card is going to be amazing. And then on top of that, like, it's just the entertainment value of this card, like the way that these athletes finish fights and stuff like that. We have a 70% finishing rate in this organization, and these athletes, like these fighters.
Say that again. 70. That's 70. A zero on the end. 70%.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know
why I just drew that out. I mean, a little more emphasis there.
Exactly. But I could get into why, but it's everything from our hydration protocols, and these guys, the athletes can put out at a high level because they're not draining the day before, to the way that we've set up our rule system and judging criteria, because it really pushes the athletes to work for a finish. And so when you look at something like that, like this card, with the various martial arts and the finishing rate and everything else, just delivers an entertainment value that I believe is beyond that of most organizations in the industry. And so if you're going to give up your time, you can go waste your time on something like Instagram, watching some reels and seeing somebody get dragged out of their car and beat up on or something like that. Or you can watch some people that know what the heck they're doing, and this is truly entertaining.
All right. Former UFC middleweight champion Rich Franklin also fought at light heavyweight. The Chuck Liddell knockout, fought Lyoto in Japan, a couple of wins over Vanderlei. And you think back on his career, man. And the guy who beat him to start his title reign was Anderson Silva, the most legendary middleweight of all time. So that's who it took to end your title reign. It was the GOAT. It took the GOAT to end your title reign.
If you're going to lose your title, I guess that's the best way to lose it.
You can't be mad, right? It isn't
exactly.
like you lost it to, a guy who won one belt and then never.
Well, and on top of it, Anderson was an honorable champ, right? Like, and he just, like, I was bested by a better man that night, but he was always, like, conducted himself in a very honorable way. So not a better person I could have lost the belt to.
Yeah, no doubt. And you guys, the OGs, Forrest and Stephen Bonner and, just Tito and Chuck and your generation paved the way. Kimbo came in on tough, and then Brock came in, and then Ronda, and then Connor, and now good Lord, but wouldn't be here without Rich Franklin. So thank you very much for the time.
That. I'm going to hit this mic.
Everything you've done for the sport, all those memories, all those great fights, and everything you're doing with One Championship. Can't wait for Friday, man. On Amazon for free, Friday night. At sold out, is it Nichols Arena? McNichols is not anymore.
First Bank.
That's how old I am. McNichols Arena. That's the '80s with the Denver Nuggets.
I didn't even know that.
I think it was the Pepsi Center after that. There's so many.
Yeah, First Bank Center.
When you're our age, you just can't remember what the name of the arenas are anymore because they change.
There's a lot of things. I've been hitting the head a lot, so there's probably quite a few things I can't remember, but I'm doing pretty good.
Sold out in Denver on Amazon. Mighty Mouse and Mariah Sage Northcutt, submission grappling, Muay Thai, One Championship, and most importantly, you left out the most important thing when you were selling the fight card. This guy right here on the mic, calling the action, Rich Franklin and the One Championship team. Thank you so much again, man. Appreciate it. Shake your hand again.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on, man.
Hit that mic again.
Fun conversation.
All right, that's Rich Franklin, guys. One of the greatest of all time, UFC Hall of Famer, former champ in the UFC, OG, and a GOAT in this game, and he is far from done at 48. Even if he doesn't get back in there and let him fly again, what he's doing with One Championship, what he's doing with these athletes, give it a watch on Friday night. Check it out, man. 70% finish rates. You want to boo when people just kind of stand around or grapple or lay on top of each other? You don't see that much at One Championship. 70% finish rate, guys. Check this out on Friday from Denver. Really appreciate all of you being here with me. Jim Gries, Gries, at Jim Gries _ at Cageside Gries on social media. Check out One Championship social platforms as well, and get ready for Friday night. The trilogy, Mighty Mouse and Mariah, each one has knocked the other one out. What will happen this Friday when the greatest of all time at flyweight puts everything on the line in what could be his last fight against a guy who has already knocked him out once? Think about that, what Mighty Mouse is thinking on the way up to this one. That alone is enough to watch it. Really appreciate you being here, fight fans. Keep your game tight and your mind right. We're out.